DAO Watch episode 24. I am your charismatic host, Cryptosi. In this episode, the special guest is Friends with Benefits. It's not the first time we've covered this DAO. It's an Ethereum-based DAO for artists and the like, content creators, all sorts really. I'm not a member of the DAO, but it is a very interesting DAO. We found out about a story within that DAO because of masternodes.buzz, so go and check those guys out. I will leave a link to them in the description. Also, we cover Dash, PIVX, and Juno. We've got absolutely packed show for you guys today, so please enjoy DAO Watch episode 24. I think we're calling it Devs Rugging Miners, featuring the mayor with benefits. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to DAO Watch episode 24. I'm not sure what the title of this one's going to be, but I guess it will be in the introduction that I just done. So let's get started. Our guest DAO for today will be Friends with Benefits. But before I get to them, I want to highlight how I found out about this particular proposal. It would have passed me by if not for the great work by the guys at masternodes.buzz. I really want to highlight what these guys have been doing. It's all text-based, but they really have been digging into DAOs and doing some absolutely great reporting. Very, very, very pleased that I found this resource. So I thought I'd share it with you all so that you could all go and check it out as well. If you're interested in DAOs, this is one of those places which you really want to go and check after watching my videos or doing anything else in your own personal DAO, just so that you can get your head out there and you can see what else is happening in the world. Because, you know, we do love to get we do love to get really immersed in our own particular projects, and then we tend to not look around the ecosystem at all. So I was looking on here and I found this Friends with Benefits DAO to adopt a mayor and council leadership structure. So we're going to look into this particular story, and we've got the actual proposal here that we can look over. We do know the outcome, so there is a bit of a spoiler there. However, the outcome is not really what's in question here. It's really the discussion, or the key takeaway is about the move towards centralization by decentralized organizations. But we'll cover that later. Before we get into all of those, we're going to cover Dash, PIVX, and Juno. We have got some brilliant proposals to look over in this episode. Let's start with the big one, really. The Dash proposal to reallocate. It's called treasury reallocation. I think this is there is so much wrong with this whole situation that Dash finds itself in. But let's go over it. Right. So the proposal is called treasury reallocation. That's only telling one third of the story, because really it's a masternode reallocation, and it's also a miner reallocation. Not miner as in small, miner as in the guys who mine new blocks. So what we have here is, I might be getting this wrong, but from memory, I might be getting this wrong. If I'm getting this wrong, put the comment in the description and I apologize. But from memory, what we had was an 80-10-10 split, where 80, let's call it percent, 80% went to the miners, 10% went to the treasury, and 10% also went to the masternodes. Now, that's what I believe it was before this reallocation. Now, that's what it currently is, right? So they put this reallocation through. The proposal has gone through, but the actual change is not yet live. I believe the change doesn't go live until maybe they move over to platform. I'm not sure when the change goes live. Right. So anyway, regardless, the reason why they want to put this through the first line of the description. Okay, so let's go through all the things that are wrong. All right. First of all, first line, this proposal seeks guidance on how the community would like to proceed as we continue to develop and improve Dash through this bear market. Right. So it's not about how the community would like to proceed at all. It's all about how the Masternode owners would like to proceed. Unfortunately, Dash doesn't have a way to poll everybody who uses Dash, everybody who mines Dash, everybody who interacts with Dash. There is no way to poll everybody. The only system that they have is a system where the Masternode owners can vote. In case you haven't been watching these series before or any of these shows, with Dash, to own a Masternode, you need to have 1,000 Dash, which at the time of writing, I guess is $27,000. So you need to have a $27,000 investment in Dash so that you can vote, and that will get you one vote. Obviously, there are incumbents who bought Dash when it was very cheap. I guess full disclosure, I'm one of those, and they get to vote, and their vote hasn't cost them $27,000. Either way, the problem I have with this proposal right off the bat is that you're asking the Dash Masternode owners if they feel they should get double the rewards, and obviously, Masternode owners are going to say yes. It does double the treasury, which is one part I really like. Unfortunately, I feel like Dash simply, they don't have the means to ask this question fully to everybody who deserves to be asked. Another problem I have with it is that the next line is that Dash Core Group's reserves are on track to be depleted sometime in October or November. As things stand, they're currently on a burn rate monthly of 175. Well, okay, wait, hold on. They're going to reduce from 175,000 US dollars. This is what they're burning monthly. They're going to reduce down to 125,000 US dollars. I feel like that's a wild amount. It's wild, and because I guess it's easy for me to say it's wild, right? So let's look at Juno, which is a Cosmos ecosystem-based project, and they're looking to raise 600,000. We're going to get onto this later, right? But I just wanted to touch on this because they've also shown their own burn rate, and for them, 600,000 will keep the project running for 3+ years. So they're on a burn rate of 175, let's say 200,000 per year. Dash are on a burn rate of 125,000 per month. Dash are transitioning to a Cosmos style blockchain. Fair. They are doing a lot of work. The updates that they are giving, the core group are giving, are very good. But let's just put those things into perspective, right? So clearly they are two different projects, and the argument would be that moving or creating Dash Tendermint and all the Dash platform, etc., is difficult and requires more skill, etc., etc. Those would be the arguments, but the burn rate speaks for itself, and the burn rate is pretty massive. And that's one of the main reasons why they want to have this change. And obviously the Masternode owners in massive majority have voted this through. Contributors have all agreed to a temporary reduction in pay. I'm not surprised. You guys were really burning money fast in comparison to pretty much all other projects. Another thing I'd like to say is that with Dash, they're in a situation, I don't really want to make enemies, but they're in a situation where the core groups seem to be untouchable, and PIVX were in a similar situation where the core group were untouchable. I was one of the people who criticised them. I duly was kicked out of PIVX for it, and it is what it is. You can't really kick me out of your decentralized thing, because if I want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. Do you know what I mean? So, but either way, that core group then left PIVX. They then left, and now PIVX is being pretty much core developed by what was the equivalent of incubator. So Dash has got incubator and it's got core. PIVX had labs and it had core. Core left and labs kind of picked up the slack. The difference being, because of the way labs is managed, they are often putting through proposals and being paid on a project by project basis. And there would be an argument to say that in recent times, especially since PIVX got rid of their core group, that PIVX's development has actually improved. The price, I'm not absolutely certain of what's happened with the price, if it's improved or not. There's been ups and downs. But development-wise, from the outside looking in, it looks like PIVX's development has definitely improved since the core group were basically scrapped and this new group became the core group, that we're used to not having that incumbent status whereby they can burn money at any rate they want, and if there's not enough money, then we'll just take it from someone else. We'll take it from the miners. Second problem I've got with this is that there is a bait and switch in how this will go through. So regularly, miners are the ones who decide what happens with next blocks and things like that. With this, there's some other mechanism. I wouldn't be able to do it justice by describing it myself in technical detail, but it was spoken about by Quantum Explorer on a podcast which he appeared on, which I will put a link to in the description, which basically says that if the masternodes agree on it, then the chain will move and the miners can like it, or they can mine something else, because what they will be mining will be dead. That is a pretty dramatic shift in how the consensus of the network works. It was always miners had the last say, and now it's not. And it's also not during a proposal which docks the miners their money and gives it to the masternode owners, who are the guys who... The whole thing is just pretty bad. Nonetheless, this is the contradiction. Nonetheless, the fact that they're doubling the budget, I think, is a great deal. I think it's brilliant. The problem is that it's going to go to the incumbents. Most of it's going to go to the core group, who have shown a propensity to spend a lot of money and not deliver very much. I hope that doesn't offend anybody. Okay, so we've had some discussion in here. It's Demo, who has been beating the drum. Let me give him an upvote. It's Demo has been beating the drum of this vote by the numbers. I'm not going to make the joke because he doesn't want me to mention him, but you know. So he again in this comment, I think this guy is my evil twin. I agree with what he's saying here about it's a situation where I don't know if I'd call it divide and conquer, but I understand the angle he's coming from. So what he's basically saying is that what's happening here is that masternode owners are voting, and it's not even all the masternode owners. We're talking about less than a third of masternode owners. We don't know how many of them are unique individuals. We just know that they are where the money is, and chances are we're talking about no more than 10 human beings. Chances are making up the vast majority, 80 or 90% of those votes. I would argue that no more than 10 human beings are making up those things. I'd be surprised if it's more than 5. And if that small subset of the entire community decides something, that's what it is. And the change is that drastic. What he would say was the vote by numbers thing is that obviously it won't work because people aren't voting in that way, but he's gone through some maths and he said, okay, if you do the vote by numbers, then it would have been changed by this much. And I think there's an argument that really shows this would be a much better way of polling the community to ask, well, how much should we move this reallocation by? Of course, that hasn't been done. And, unfortunately for the miners, I wouldn't say they get screwed, but they definitely have had a change which they don't have any say in. And I think that's a little bit bad. It's Grandmaster Dash actually that says about them being unique individuals. Good to see this guy back. There's discussion now about moving over to proof of stake, but we won't really. I don't know if we'll get into that. For me, let's quickly do the pros and cons, because I've spent far too much time on this particular proposal. I knew I would. Let's go through the pros and cons very quickly. There's some great talking points that have been brought up, and it will give the budget a much needed boost. The cons are that it goes to the same old incumbents. Most of this increase is going to go to Dash Core Group, who, let's say they might have had different iterations or different staff during the time, but they've spent over 5 years to deliver something which is not going to be cutting edge feature wise. There, I said it. I've said it loads of times. I always say it. Only Masternode owners can vote. So we're asking people, do you want more money? Of course, the people who are getting to vote are going to get more money. They are going to say yes. I really feel like this shouldn't have been put through with the Masternode owner part attached to it. I think if the Dash Core Group needed bigger budget, then they should have just changed it to 60-30-10. I think it's bad form of the Masternode owners or this proposal to go through to change both things at once. I think that's bad form. The argument is that it makes owning a Masternode compete with US treasuries or something like that. I don't know. It seemed very blinkered. It seemed very short-sighted, and it seemed like it wasn't really doused in much logic, short-term logic possibly, but not any long-term thinking. Very US-centric, which is often a problem. Changes being forced through despite miners probably not wanting it. If you'd have asked the miners, they would have probably said, oh, give us 100% and keep nothing for the budget. So if you're going to ask the people who are going to benefit and only ask them, I think you're definitely going to get different outcomes. And this is one of those situations. I haven't voted on this. I'm not going to vote on it because I don't think I should be voting. So I've not even bothered to abstain because I don't want to give Demo the I don't want to give him the satisfaction of using my vote to run through his numbers game. I'm just joking. I'm going to put a link in the description to the 2 incubator shows which are about this. There was 2, one by Sam, also known as Quantum Explorer, both of them hosted by Amanda and Ryan, and the other one by Peter, also known as Top Normal. And he gave the counter argument. I felt like his one was possibly cut a little bit short. I might have liked that one to be longer form, but they like to keep their shows an hour long. But I feel like that one could have been 2 hours long, just due to the way that he spoke. He's quite thorough and he takes his time and all of his explanations, which I personally appreciated. They could have maybe done 2 shows with him. I don't know. But shout out to them for actually doing the show and going out of their way to have both sides of the argument for what it was worth. It was pretty clear it was always going to go through because, you're asking the Masternode owners if they want more money, they're going to say yes. Also, in other news related to Dash, I will be on the Dash DAO podcast with Joel Valenzuela. I've already butchered his name, but that should be going out live today, probably at the same time that this goes live. So I will put a link to that in the description. So when you're watching this, if you want more of me, you can go and watch that also. That should be an interesting discussion because me and him generally don't agree on anything. And we're always in Twitter with our contrasting views. And I really actually appreciate the dynamic that we do have when we do discuss things. Obviously, he's wrong most of the time because I'm never wrong. Let's move on. Let's move on. Let's go on to PIVX. This one I'm not going to take too long on as we're already 20 minutes in and I've only done one proposal. So I'm not going to take too long on this one. This one is a proposal to have Portuguese language. So last episode we done Spanish language. This episode we're looking at Portuguese language. The reason why I'm touching on this one is because there was one particular comment which was by one of my English comrades, and it really, it triggered me, really triggered me. So what he said is there's obviously some sort of chat going on, but in the closed Discord to start funding people's time, creating stuff as multiple ones, blah, blah, or whatever. So what he said here is Portuguese and Spanish are closely similar, so I don't see the point in the two. It's a wild statement, absolutely crazy statement. Okay, the countries are close together, the languages are somewhat different, the cultures are very much different. Graphics created by multiple people already, so it's only translating there. That's definitely not true. So hopefully Gerald watches this and starts to understand what it means and how successful, for a start, ambassador programs are, and secondly, how successful or how important it is to have people who are prepared to market in their own language to their own people from their own cultures. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is, especially if you have a currency which you want to be a world currency. So let's check the numbers, shall we, quickly? 604 million people worldwide speak English as their mother tongue. There's probably maybe the same again that speak English as a second language, maybe, optimistically. Spanish speakers, there are 474 million. So Spanish speakers as their mother tongue, there's quite a lot. All right, so we're talking about almost as many as English speakers. And then when we look at Portuguese speakers, I believe it's probably gonna be something like 260 million. So again, it's a massive amount of people. And with Portuguese, you've got to also take into account we're talking about Brazilians, and Brazilians alone are probably 200 million, 250 million probably Brazilian people. There are BRICS nations. They are an up-and-coming economic superpower. We've got an up-and-coming cryptocurrency superpower. Why would you not have it in a language that those people can understand? This part I really don't. This part I don't get. And you can't go and tell Brazil we only have it in Spanish, so do it with Spanish. That it makes no sense. But it's the blinkered view that we have as people in the West, especially England. It's a blinkered, and in America, you guys are the same. It's a blinkered view we have where the world kind of stops at our borders and everybody else needs to do things the way we do them or speak in our language. Otherwise, you know what, leave them. That it's silly. It's arrogant. So for me, I'm going to give this one a yes. One thing that I didn't really like, which I put in here, was a lack of, I added a comment here, probably a lack of metrics, I believe. And there wasn't a good pre-proposal, subsequent lack of metrics, lack of a roadmap. So I said it's a tough one to pass. I can certainly see the value here and love support this in the same way the Portuguese Twitter account has been supporting me. So since I've been posting things, the Portuguese Twitter account reposts me. When I put out the PIVX DAO tutorials, they've already translated them. Those things they're doing for free. But if my proposals If my proposal tutorials can now reach 200 million Brazilians, which is a place where cryptocurrency definitely has more value than it has here in England, because they have their own financial hurdles, economic hurdles to overcome. They want to be doing international trade, and they have villains like Visa and SWIFT and the IMF trying to keep their foot on the necks of these people. PIVX is a wonderful tool for them, and we've got it. So if these guys now can see my tutorials in their native language, they don't have to try to understand what I'm saying because they don't speak English that well, and then they can go and start themselves to interact with the DAO. The DAO just becomes better, it becomes stronger, and PIVX becomes a better project. The price may not go up by much, but once you start having people coming in from different places, you get more diverse ideas. More diverse ideas is what we call cognitive diversity. Cognitive diversity leads to more efficient and effective outcomes for every single DAO. So there we have it. And breathe. Okay. And let's move on. This is going to be a long episode. I can't help it. I'm sorry in advance. Juno, I really am falling in love with this project. So Juno's proposal that I want to look at is, if we go here and we go to the governance dashboard, there's an over-the-counter funding proposal. Long story short, what these guys want to do is they want to sell 1.5 million Juno to secure 600,000 US dollars. They do go into this in greater detail on Commonwealth, which is the worst forum I've ever used in my life. It's so slow. Dimmy was the guy who put this forward. Shout out to him because he's really done very well with this proposal, quite clearly laid out. When people have come through to ask for clarification for transparency reasons, he has been forthcoming with answers. So this is a very well-crafted proposal. It's nice and concise. So well done him. Juno is going through a change in how they are managed, let's say. Managed is a fair word. Which I'm not going to go into here, but what it will mean is that this group, Core 1, will be removed and there'll be a new group. Now, some people are saying they should wait until there's a new group to put this forward. Reese, the development lead, who will be involved in the new group, who has really kept this project alive, it seems, from a development point of view. If he's for it, it lends a lot of credibility to the idea. He will know who the counterparty is. Unfortunately, no one else does. And for me, that's a huge problem. Some people have put it forward here. This person, Anonymous, put it forward best of all, nice and concise again. Lack of public visibility, off the chain, details of the deal aren't being known. We don't know who the counterparty is, so the person could go and dump these tokens. They probably won't. The liquidity isn't really there for that. They would be losing money immediately. Knowing the counterparty enables community to assess the potential conflicts of interest that may arise from the deal. This is very true. What if the counterparty is the founder of Canto or some other competing chain? I hate that term. Juno Core 1 will soon be transitioned over to a new charter, and Core 1 will soon be defunct. Why are we rushing to make this over-the-counter deal, which is primarily driven by Core 1? We need to really assess who will be in what positions under the new charter. But obviously that's beyond the remit of this person's comments. In light of these considerations, I kindly request that the OTC funding proposal includes a provision for disclosing the identity of the counterparty in the deal. By doing so, we can align the process. I have to vote no in the current state, as this is the deal driven by Core 1, which is soon to be replaced. The new community-driven Juno should negotiate this deal instead. There's a good chance a new community-driven Juno will not be able to negotiate this deal. Some deals have to be done in this way, and that is actually responded to nicely by Dimmy, who says that the entity wants to stay private. which makes sense. If I'm buying 600k USD worth of Juno, and I'm not the other entity, by the way, but if I was, I wouldn't want it to be public, because then you just become a target as soon as you sell some. Oh, this guy's giving up on us. We hate you. Scammer. Whoa. Exit scam, this, that, and the other. Currently, Juno has 0 stablecoin reserve salaries are paid in the Juno token. There was one more thing I wanted to touch on. Okay. Okay, so pros and cons. Let's get this one wrapped up. Pros and cons are, the pros are it secures funding, and luckily they've shown what their burn rate is, and their burn rate is tiny. Their team is a lot smaller than Dash, which we looked at before, but their burn rate is something like 600k should last them for 3+ years, I believe. Dimmy said somewhere, there we go, 3+ years of development or runway at the current expenses. So their burn rate is reasonable, let's say. So let's say they're burning maybe 20k per month. I think that's reasonable. Under 20k, 180k less, 18k, let's say, per month. The deal was already negotiated with the best terms they could get. They tried very many options, including investing in other ranges. So that's for me another negative point. I would like to see vesting on a deal of this size. But if you can't get it, you can't get it. But how do we know that these guys are the greatest negotiators in the game? We simply don't. And I would assume that they're not. Other pros and cons. Let me just check my notes here. Yes, of course. Also, they're selling right now when we are pretty much at not quite the bottom of the bear market, but we're quite low in the bear market and we're on our way up. I can't see Juno going down much more from here and surviving. So my argument would be, why sell now? Anyone who buys now before a bull market, you're definitely getting it at a bargain. If Juno goes anywhere near back to all-time high, this person will make an absolute killing. The wife changing money, as we like to say. Obviously, they are taking a risk, but it doesn't seem to me that it makes a lot of sense to sell now. If Juno doesn't go up in the following bull market, which does happen sometimes, the old tech doesn't pump in the way that the new tech does. If that is the case, then Juno dies either way, because there's only 3 years of runway, which is not going to take them to another bull market, especially given the fact that US dollars themselves are massively inflationary. So pay in US dollars is going to go up. You're not going to, in 3 years from now, the burn rate will be higher because US dollars will be worth less. Not worthless, but worth less than they are today. So there's those things to consider, and based on those things, although I actually haven't voted yet, but I will vote no. I'm going to vote no. I'm not going to vote no. I'm not sure. I'm still on the fence. Because I do, and I have always ranted on about holding your token as your runway and the dangers that are inherent with that. So if the price of Juno goes down 50%, your runway gets cut in half. You go down from 3 years to a year and a half. Moving into US dollars, you've got a definite inflationary counter risk. However, it's not as big. The value of the US dollar is not likely to halve overnight, but with Juno it can. so taking that into account, and also it's not all of their Juno. So if they sell 1.5 million Juno, I guess it's maybe half of their Juno. They'll still have quite a lot left. Taking all of that into account, I'm erring on the side of yes. I'm over towards the side of yes. Just diversifies their treasury nicely. So I'm going to make a decision, executive decision, and I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes on this one. Okay. And now let's go through to the last one. Once again, a quick shout out to masternodes.buzz. Putting up great content. And this one is a very interesting proposal put forward by the guys at Friends with Benefits. I wonder if I can actually go to the website, Friends with Benefits website. In case you don't know what Friends with Benefits are, I don't really know what Friends with Benefits are. It's like a DAO which pays for artists to do various art stuff, and they all work as a collective or cooperative to hold events and to do loads of other things. And it's a pretty big DAO. It's a pretty well-known DAO. It's one of the oldest DAOs on Ethereum, I'll say. Oldest might be pushing it, but either way. This proposal, I'll read through here actually. So the DAO is moving forward with its leadership transition plans. Under the new structure, a community council will be created to collaborate with and provide guidance to Friends with Benefits, mayor and core team. So they're going to have these new roles, which I can show you. I've got the image here. They're going to have these new roles, which are mayor, who is the new head honcho. I guess he's the new CEO, let's say. He's responsible for pretty much everything. Underneath that, there's a community council who are responsible for keeping him honest, I guess. Their key performance indicators will be growth and expansion use cases for their FWB token. And then they need to put in a number of quarterly proposals and a number of funded proposals. They need to make sure they remain on the right side of the code of conduct. The core team will remain as the core team. I really don't like core teams in DAOs. I think that they just end up being incumbents and they often become inefficient. Carry out day-to-day operations, marketing and treasury work as required to keep the DAO operating smoothly. Fair enough if you say so. Defined granularly job by job. The usual DAO members, who are the people who own the tokens, they will be still participating in voting and still participating in the ways that they were. However, there might be and this is the problem I have with this proposal, generally when you increase the amount of core or the amount of people who are seen to be responsible, what you do is these members at the bottom, they tend to step back. Now, I have a perfect example of that with Evmos. Evmos is a project I used to cover quite regularly in every project until they went with this new DAO governance work stream. Since they went with the DAO governance work stream, the amount of proposals put in by outsiders just fell off a cliff. There now are none. And when there are some, if there are ever any, they don't go through. And it's just more money for DeFi after more money for DeFi on top of the exchange that they've got, the one trading exchange that they've got to do DeFi with the non-tokens that are being launched there, because there is no entrepreneurs, there are no people coming from the outside to come in. Evmos it's a weird one because they've got DeFi, but to me, on a governance level, it's like a zombie chain. And I worry for Friends with Benefits, having this new, more centralized structure, I worry that they may see the same fate, where these number of member-authored proposals falls off a cliff. Now, had it been the responsibility of the community council or the mayor or the core team to increase the number of member-authored proposals, then we might see more outreach, but it's not. And I think this is a massive oversight by the Friends with Benefits guys for them not to really focus on trying to get new blood through the doors. As you can see in PIVX, the amount of proposals from new people is just the one, and that one's not being voted through. In Dash, it's a bad time to look now, but in the last budget, I believe I may have been the only person who was putting for a proposal that had never put for a proposal before on that blockchain. What you want is every single super block, you want there to be 3 or 4 proposals by new people that have made it through the pre-proposal process and are now being put forward. This should be the role of the business development guys, but it's simply not. And that's the reason why a lot of these DAOs, they're not really functioning in an optimal way. None of them are, to be fair. But I'm building Cryptosi DAO, and I guess that's something that I'll try to address with the guys that are building with me over there. So for me, this one's a yes. I'm going to do my wrap up now. For me, the Juno proposal's a yes. The Friends with Benefits proposal, I don't hold Friends with Benefits. Do you know what? I think I kind of cut that one in half, didn't I? I hadn't really finished discussing it. But overall, you get the gist of it, right? So basically, they've had decentralizing. They've got a council to keep the mayor honest and the mayor to be the new CEO. They're getting paid. The mayor's going to be getting paid $150,000 a year. The council members will be getting paid something similar, but they're only going to be doing part-time, so they're only going to be two or 3 hours a week. I'd like to be a council member, but you have to, one of the criteria is that you have to have been public within the Friends with Benefits DAO for the past 12 months. I think that's a pretty bad stipulation. Again, it kind of doesn't favor the outsiders like myself, doesn't bring in new blood, doesn't encourage cross-pollination. You've got the same old thoughts from the same old people. You just elevated them and given them a little bit more of a hierarchical structure, but you've not introduced any dynamic thoughts or any thoughts from people with experience from other DAOs. You've just got these guys who have been in this DAO pretty much exclusively for the past 12 months. That is a bad criteria to have. Overall, they've got a nice little timeline for how this transition is going to take place, and they've also got a nice little, I think they called it rubric. I've not really heard the word before, but basically it's like a requirements that they want for their community council members. So in terms of this, they wouldn't be able to, well, they probably would be able to. I've been an active DAO member for much longer than 12 months, but the DAO, so not of that DAO. Okay, fine. I've done some leadership stuff. I've done a lot of community engagement, integrity and ethics. Don't know about that. I'm a bit sweary. Strategic thinking, that is my strong point. Industry knowledge, obviously, no one knows more about DAOs than me because I am the god of DAOs. Technical literacy, it's only 5 points, so the fact that I don't know much doesn't matter. And collaboration and networking, I've got a nice network because I moved from DAO to DAO and I haven't stayed in one. Don't see how you can be an active member of one DAO for 12 months and also have a good network. It's not really likely, it's not really possible, because if you're in one DAO, you're in that DAO. So you'll have a network of not other DAOs, you'll have a network of maybe exchanges, maybe other types of partnerships that DAOs can make. Or maybe they network outside of crypto, to be fair. So yeah, ignore everything I just said. Thank you for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. Any comments about anything that I've discussed today that you don't like, keep it to yourself. Anything that you do like, please do feel free to add it to my discussion section underneath. The book, The Ultimate DAO Handbook, is still out on Amazon. I'm really taken back by how well it's doing. So thank you for everybody who's purchased a copy of that and people who are even reading it. It's only on Kindles. I think it's only an ebook. I haven't done a hard copy yet. I haven't done a hard copy yet. So thank you to the people that are reading it, because obviously the more you read it, the more I get paid. And, you know, My children need wine, so keep reading, keep buying. And thanks for watching. And I will see you in episode 25. So we're almost at a quarter of a century. Thanks for watching. I am Cryptosi, signing out.